This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we are back for the Onside kick for another week of talking NFL football here on Most Valuable Podcast. And we are continuing after a week off. Actually, a week off for both of us, but really 2 weeks for you, Mark. You've not been here in 2 weeks. Had your honeymoon. You are now back from said honeymoon. And we are now back to start previewing the honeymoon. Like, we had the honeymoon. We're not going to preview the honeymoon.
Well, it's already over, so there's not much previewing.
We're not going to recap the honeymoon. But we had that week. We also had last week where our computer was on the fritz. And now we're back to preview NFL divisions. And we're going to preview the AFC South this week. If you're new to the podcast, how it works is we start with the bottom feeder from last year, Jacksonville Jaguars in this case. And we work our way through the standings all the way to the Houston Texans is who we will end the podcast with. And Mark, I want to get right into it. Let's start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a team each and every year where I've said in the past where they're kind of like the Sacramento Kings. They're the Sacramento Kings of the NFL for me. And part of why I say that is, especially now with the Kings having their young talent, but this team, every year, it's like, man, so much potential. They've got this, they've got that. Look at the defense, what they added. And then they go out and they shit the bed. And this year, no exceptions to that. In free agency, all they really lost from last year was, they've lost Prince Amukamara. Yeah, they lost Kevin Beachum. They lose Devon House. But however, they add guys like A.J. Boye, who was supposed to go to the Bears, but he didn't and went to Jacksonville as well.
It's a lot nicer in Jacksonville.
They also get Calais Campbell from the Arizona Cardinals. They get Barry Church, who was from the Cowboys. But then also another good draft class for this team. They go ahead and get Leonard Fournette. They go out and get Cam Robinson to be on the line. They get a guy in Dwayne Smoot in the third round that I like out of our home state team of Illinois. But I think the real question for this team and the starting point for it isn't about the additions coming in. It's about what they already have. Is this the year for Blake Bortles? Like, is this the year, we say it every year, is this the year where we finally say to Blake, either put up or shut up? Because of the coaching changes that have gone in, he now has a hopeful running back weapon behind him with his two wide receivers. Yeah, they don't have Julius Thomas, but is this the year where we finally say, hey, Blake, put up or shut up?
Well, you kind of hope so, and I think that Tom Coughlin's existence in the Jacksonville Jaguars system right now is kind of pushing that forward as well. And this is a team who, like you said yourself, they constantly have these expectations, and you get Doug Marrone in here kind of having his chance at redemption at being a head coach, and there was not a lot of commitment to Blake Bortles other than, well, we don't really have anybody else, so yeah, sure, he can be the guy. You get Leonard Fournette. You don't really necessarily get any new wide receiving weapons. Your wide receivers aren't terrible either, so that's not the biggest concern in the world, although I would certainly have been a good splash for them to get an Alshon Jeffrey or something like that, someone who they could have really clung to as this is the weapon for Blake Bortles. They also get Cam Robinson, like you said, so they get some good help on the offensive line. They're doing what they can for him. He really needs to step it up, and Blake Bortles always gets the benefit of the team is down and they throw the ball. That's why people like him in fantasy football. Unfortunately, he throws a little bit too many interceptions. But the big thing for me with Jacksonville is because they are so good on paper every year, they kind of fall into that I got to see it to believe it category because they always seem to be disappointing you. This team has the ability to get it up, and I actually think that Tom Coughlin's presence can do a lot for this team. I got a big question mark next to Doug Marrone as a head coach because didn't quite work out, and it wasn't completely his fault over in Buffalo. But it still raises the question mark. I don't really know, and I don't know what the future for Blake Bortles is. But he's got a lot of pieces, so he can make it work.
Well, and the reason why it's kind of a different situation or a different attitude, I should say, coming into this year for me for Blake Bortles than it was last year, because you guys should know, if you guys are avid listeners and watchers of the Onside Kick, I was very high on Jacksonville last year. They were one of my teams where in our first prediction, I had them as the first team out. Second prediction, I actually have them as the 6th spot in the playoffs last year. I had them as a playoff team in our predictions, mainly because, I looked at Blake Bortles and I said, you know what? Coming off of that rookie season, was throwing for almost 4,500 yards, or 1,000 yards. He had 4,500 yards. He was throwing for an average of 7.3 yards per average, had 35 touchdowns. Yeah, 18 interceptions, like you said, was a lot, but you have 35 touchdowns, though.
Kind of makes up for it.
You're going ahead and you're making up for it. Completion percentage around 60, where that has been the only consistent thing for him, is 58.9, 58.6, 58.9 this past year. However, I thought that they were going to take a step forward. 3-13, then 5 wins his second year, and I thought that this next year would be, at the least, if you're keeping the progression, 7-9 would have been the target for last year, with hopefully then 9-7 this year, and you're talking playoffs.
Yeah.
But you hit a regression, and with the most attempts that he's had in a season, he had far less yards than he had in his second season, about 500 to 600 yards less. He had almost 1 whole yard less on his average, about 12 less touchdowns, however, only had 2 less interceptions. So, last year, you can't pin it all on Blake Bortles, obviously, because obviously the run game didn't help him out. They expected Chris Ivory to be a bigger part than he was. However, he was battling injuries, and when you had him battling injury, TJ Yeldon didn't really carry the load like we thought he would.
Yeah.
This year coming out, though, we're hoping that Leonard Fournette can carry this run game to maybe give them a shot in the arm, because this offense, to me, is the focal point, only because Blake Bortles has lost a huge weapon when Tom Coughlin and the Jaguars decided, hey, we're going to ship Julius Thomas over to the Dolphins.
I don't know how huge of a weapon it really was. He wasn't necessarily as productive as he, obviously, with Blake Bortles as he was with Peyton Manning. So I don't think that's that huge of a loss. Mercedes Lewis is not amazing, but he's no joke at the tight end position. Now, with Leonard Fournette, he's got a great advantage of having TJ Yeldon, having Chris Ivory still there behind him. Someone like Chris Ivory, who was supposed to really carry the load, now being your number 2, that's pretty nice. That should be a good benefit. So there's a lot here for a Blake Bortles, to take advantage of, for this just entire offense, and Hackett, the offensive coordinator, to really take advantage of and get some success. This team, like many teams here, is going to live or die with their young quarterback. And if he can't get going and he can't cut down on those interceptions, if he can't make smarter decisions, if he can get back to that 4,000-yard mark and higher, that's going to be beneficial for him. I think that Leonard Fournette, unfortunately, there's a lot that's going to be on his shoulders, and there's going to be a lot of expectations for him. An early round draft pick, the consensus number 1 running back to take, there's a lot on this kid's shoulders, and he's definitely going to, I think, feel that pressure in Jacksonville, a team that we keep saying should be good, should be good, should be good. It's about time they actually put up. Otherwise, Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone are going to start getting rid of some guys. I definitely think that the thing from this team last year that I really think is most memorable, they were a 3-13 team, but it's just the fact that everything was just kind of below average. Nothing about this team was terrible. There was nothing that was that bad. They were not bottom for much. It was just the fact that this team was a little bit below average, and the games didn't go their way because of the fact that teams were just a little bit better than them. So this isn't a team that's that far away. You add a piece like Leonard Fournette, and you get an effective run game, and that's going to make Blake Bortles' job easier. That's going to make Allen Robinson's life easier. Allen Hurns out there. This is going to make such a improvement by just getting one little piece which of course is going to make the defense's life easier too. This team is not that far away from being in that 7-9 range that you were mentioning before.
No, they're not
that
far.
8-8.
They're not far at all. However, the thing that kind of worries me, and it's all going to come down to, because the defense as well, we haven't hit yet, and the defense is also one of, it's like, okay, this time you've added some pieces in free agency to go on that defense. Calais Campbell on the defensive line, A.J. Boye in the secondary, also Barry Church in the secondary as well, just to name a few. However, I look at their schedule and just the beginning to me, and I don't want to give all my eggs away because the Jaguars are a team that I'm going to give our predictions for when we come out with those videos next week, but I just look at their first few games. You start on the road at Houston. I know Houston might be throwing out a rookie quarterback there. However, they have a team around that rookie quarterback to where it's a little bit more stable of an environment. That the big thing that they have missed is a quarterback that could get the job done after overpaying for Brock Osweiler. The Titans, depending on Marcus Mariota does, that could be a tough home game for you. The Ravens are a tough game. You have the Steelers week 5, the Colts week 6. Like, there is a chance this team could be 2-5 at the worst, because I don't think you lose to New York or the Rams. I think those are winnable games and easy wins for you guys. But there's a possibility you're 2-5 heading into your bye week, week 8.
Yeah. And, when you really look at these schedules, an important thing to note last year for the Jaguars is they lost 6 games by 1 possession. So they had the opportunity to get some of these games. And that's why I said that this team, a big problem for them, which is that they were slightly below average and teams were just a little bit better. When I say that they're just a little bit better, I'm just basically saying that these are these 1-possession games where they can turn it around and they can win. Of course, they won 2 games by just 1 possession as well. So, that's not that great in their side.
And that Bears game, wasn't that one where they had to come back and win that one?
Yeah.
And that was a game that, I know we know about it only because we live here in Chicago, but that was a game even Bear fans were like, we should have had that one. So
they won that game.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That was one that they won that
Yeah.
Bears fans are like, we should have had that one that could have been a loss.
Yep. And that was one of those things where for this team, you just start turning some of these things around and you start making those, less mistakes for Blake Bortles, the run game being more effective, eating up more clock. And all of a sudden, you're going to start turning these 1-possession games, getting a few of these, picking up 2-3 more wins in a season. And that's going to be super beneficial for you. Can the Jacksonville Jaguars make smarter decisions? Can this run game be more effective than last year? I would have to think it should be. Tom Coughlin being there. Tom Coughlin knows how to work with quarterbacks. And, of course, people in the comment section are already saying that Eli Manning is no shy away from interceptions, but he knows how to work with good quarterbacks. He can get more, hopefully, out of Blake Bortles. But the hard thing is, because we all want to talk about Tom Coughlin, but Tom Coughlin's not the head coach. He's not the GM. He's got this weird role.
President of football operations.
Yeah, he's got this weird role where he's taking certain things and ready to step in anytime he needs to step in.
He's like an advisor almost.
Yeah, so it's like, how much is he going to help Todd Wash get this defense to perform better with their new additions on defense, which I like these additions quite a bit. How much more can we expect? A guy like Jalen Ramsey, who was such a highly touted corner coming out last year, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to play? Is he going to make an impact? Is he going to make a difference for this team? These are the things that they need, because Jacksonville fans, you guys are no stranger to injury issues, especially if you're young players that you have a lot of promise with. So they need to keep a healthy team out there. This sounds so John Madden-esque, but they need a healthy team in Jacksonville finally if they have any hope of turning things around.
Well, and the thing that I'm looking at is the thing for Ramsey. You mentioned one of them was, can he stay healthy? But if he can, having A.J. Boye out there
Huge help.
is going to help. And A.J. Boye, coming from a team where the Houston Texans were the second least amount, like their defense gave up the second least passing yards at 201.6.
Now they have an amazing pass rush.
Yeah,
so that helps.
The only defense that gave up less yards, Denver's defense at 185.8.
Yeah.
So that's something to look at as well. And with this defense, because the big 3 points for me coming into this season is, one, can the offense put more points up on the board? They only had 19.5, I want to say, points per game last season, 19.9 points per game last season. That was ranked 25th in the NFL. You got to put up more points than that. There's no excuse for that. However, the other 2 points are on defense. Can you limit passing attacks? Because I mentioned the passing yards for Houston, but this Jacksonville team also gave up 25 points per game, and they ranked 25th in points allowed per game. They were 5 away from being the worst defense points per game last year. That was the 49ers with 30 points given up on average per game. Can they limit the points per game that they throw up? And can these new additions, can everything work together? Because on paper, I love this defense. Donta Fowler Jr., Malik Jackson, Sheldon Day, a nice front 7 with Calais Campbell now coming in with that front 4. The linebackers of Paul Posluszny and Miles Jack, with now the secondary of Boye, Ramsey, Church. Can these pieces that look good on paper, can they now fit together and do things for this team that we expected them to maybe do last year?
And the year before that. This team on paper has always been good.
And that's the kind of thing of like this year, I'll be honest. Like last year I was high on Jacksonville. This year I'm not, only because it's like, well, you know what? You fooled me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You ain't going to do it again. Mm-hmm. I ain't going to pick you to go to the playoffs.
Yeah. and I don't necessarily have high hopes for Jacksonville yet, just because there's too many question marks right now. There's too many things I need to see different. But it's a team that if they go 7-9 this coming year, I'm not going to be surprised. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say, all right, they turned it on. Good for them. You know, that's kind of where I fall for Jacksonville is I'm not going to be surprised that they're bad. I'm not going to be surprised that they're good. I'm just going to I understand that the team can go in either direction. And I think that's what Jacksonville Jaguar fans need to understand. When they're coming into the season, they need to understand that their team has everything they need to be a good team. They just haven't been able to put it together yet. And you hope that a guy like Doug Marrone can kind of, whip these kids into shape, essentially. You hope that Leonard Fournette turns things around. You hope that some of these additions to the defense really solidify that and make this team better. But, I wouldn't bet your paycheck on it.
Last thing I want to ask you to kind of end this before we move on into the Colts has to do bringing it full circle back to the quarterback situation.
Yep.
If this team finishes with another top 5 pick next year, I'm putting you in the driver's seat. You are making the draft pick in the first round. You have a top 5 pick.
Yep.
Do you take a quarterback and say it is done with Blake Bortles if you're in the top 5 again?
I most likely will take a quarterback. The only exception is I know this sounds dumb, but if the value really isn't there. For example, if 1 and 2 they take quarterbacks and I'm like 4, I'm not taking a quarterback.
Well, I say that
it's not dire need.
This could be the year where we have like a ton of quarterbacks that are worthy of top 10 spots.
Let's wait and see how college football season goes.
We do have to wait for that. Plus, the thing that you got to look into, and this is another thing kind of with the Blake Bortles to end it, after this year, next year's his contract year. So, of course, if he has 2 duds, you're not going to pay for him like you would for the other quarterback contracts we've seen. However, are you going to want to bring him back, or are you going to want to look for that next option?
And there's going to be free agent quarterbacks out there, too. In Jacksonville...
Hey, Tony Romo and Jay Cutler still don't have jobs.
That's right. You can sign one of those guys. I think they're going to be enjoying their nice, their nice cushy job commentating. But if this team too, if it's got a lot of pieces that are there, if this defense improves, if you get another weapon or two in the draft next year, this is a very appealing job for. I don't know, if you look at Garoppolo, if you look at Kirk Cousins, these guys who are going to be available, and maybe even
Kirk Cousins could be available. You're right.
Yeah, maybe even if Ginger Giraffe impresses here in Chicago. I'm honestly blanking on his name.
Did you just call Mike Glennon?
There we go, Glennon.
Giraffe?
Well, I mean that's basically what he is essentially. I honestly couldn't think of his name, which is unfortunate. But if he honestly impresses...
Trubisky's your starting quarterback anyways.
Well, yeah, exactly. If he honestly impresses in Chicago, and they're not going to probably keep him around.
No.
Because they're not going to have...
He's a one-year rental.
Yeah, they're not really going to have that great of a season anyways. Eventually, Trubisky comes in week 10 or something like that. Maybe you might grab a guy like that. I don't know. Not saying it's going to happen. Just saying there will be options.
Well, this is where I want to turn on to you
Jacksonville
guys.
fans hate me for saying that they're going to get Mike Glennon next year now.
Jacksonville fans, let us know down below. What do you guys think of your team this year? And really, to me, the big question mark is Blake Bortles. How do you expect him to be? And I'm going to pose the same question to you. If you guys are a top 5 pick next year, are you taking a quarterback? Are you done with Blake Bortles? Or do you see how he does in that contract season? Let us know down below in the comment section. But Mark, let's move now into the next team on the docket here for the preview, and that is the Indianapolis Colts. And this is a team where I don't want to start it off the same way we started the Jaguar preview off, but I kind of feel like you have to, where this is another team that coming in, quarterback question with Andrew Luck, and more so on his health, not his performance, but on his health. And I want to ask you the question that I saw on ESPN today. If you're coming into this season, do you have more concern for Andrew Luck or more concern for the rest of the Indianapolis Colts?
Well, I'm always going to have a lot of concern for the rest of the Indianapolis Colts because I jokingly said to you before we started recording today that getting drafted by the Colts is not good for the career when you're a quarterback. That's obviously a joke. Peyton Manning had a wonderful career and all that, but
he had a Super Bowl too.
Super Bowl.
The one you don't remember.
He
but
had
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl is what I've heard. It's what I've been told.
Mark doesn't remember that Super Bowl.
A Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts. So for those of you who yelled at me in the comment section, I know he won one with Denver. We're talking about the Colts.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue for Peyton Manning was that he never, for being the greatest regular season quarterback, he never had enough support to get past some of those really good teams. Obviously, he went to 2 Super Bowls in Indianapolis, lost to Drew Brees for one of them. But I feel like the same thing is happening for Andrew Luck, that he's not going to get the rest of the pieces that he needs. And that's kind of been a theme for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, I'm not trying to say he's got a terrible team. He's got some good stuff out here. But it's not, you look at the Patriots. You look at the great team that the Seahawks were able to put together. You look at the Falcons last year and all those weapons. You look at the Raiders and the weapons that Derek Carr gets to play around with. And Andrew Luck, who's a better quarterback than a lot of these guys, I don't know. I feel like he's always kind of missing something that some of these other great quarterbacks get to enjoy.
I'll tell you what he's missing. Do you want to know what he's missing?
A run game?
A solid defense.
Oh,
that's what he's missing. Because, I mean, the run game, I also wanted to kind of criticize that at first. But then I looked at the stats from last year, and it's like, you know what? Frank Gore, an 1,000-yard rusher. Yeah, he only had 4 touchdowns. However, Robert Turbin was the touchdown guy last year, but he only had 7 on that, that running back committee.
It's a below-average run game, but not necessarily terrible.
And it doesn't need to be a and I say that I'm going to use the word ferocious run game because you have Andrew Luck. obviously this is going to be a pass-first team.
Yeah.
When you have Andrew Luck and what he can do.
Certainly helps to have.
My big focal point for this season is going to be the defense. And I mean, when you look at this team and what they did in the draft particularly, I love the move that they made basically 1, 2, and 3, their first 3 picks of the draft. They go and get Malik Hooker at 15, which I thought was a steal.
Yep.
I thought he could have been a top 5 pick at the best last year. We even had him as high as 2 or 3, depending on the team you go for. I know we talked about him to the Bears at 3 a lot in our mocks. Then they go and get Quincy Wilson, the cornerback out of Florida. I love that pick in the second round. And then they go ahead and get themselves a defensive end in the third round. So right there, you are tackling 2 of your biggest needs and 2 of the big needs that are going to help you win. A guy that's going to hopefully contribute in some way to a pass rush, but more importantly, 2 guys that you can put in the secondary to combat quarterbacks that you are going to go up against this year, because this division will have quarterbacks. Blake Bortles, like we said, we had the questions about him in the Jacksonville preview. However, he's a name throwing the ball that you can't just sleep on. Marcus Mariota, when healthy with the Titans, he's going to be huge, that you're going to play 2 times a year. And then what we're expecting in Houston to be Deshaun Watson, if he is anything like he was in college this first year in his rookie season, then you should be scared if you're Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And you're going to have these 3 quarterbacks to go up against twice for each of them.
The hard thing is the Indianapolis Colts have to put up points. They had to put up a lot of points because the defense has kind of historically been giving up a lot of points. The thing that worries me about that is I look at this PUP list and I see both your starting strong and free safeties sitting on that PUP list. And Andrew Luck, of course, is on it too. And everything is saying right now that he's good to go week 1. He'll be there week 1.
I think they should sit him out the preseason.
I'm sure they
entire
will.
preseason.
I don't doubt that they will. He doesn't need it. But I just look at a guy like Malik Hooker, and you don't like to see a rookie get injury issues in the offseason and preseason, because a lot of times, and maybe this is just coming from a Chicago Bears fan, but a lot of times these injury issues, they linger through that rookie season if they don't completely end that rookie season. And this team, like I said, they needed to be able to stop teams from scoring points, because that's why they've been so dependent on Andrew Luck and putting the world on his shoulders, because they cannot stop the opposing team from scoring. And if you got, Malik Hooker, who's not going to play, this highly touted rookie you're really excited about, that really kind of puts a damper on this defense. And what do we praise him for being? The center fielder. He was the guy who was going to be able to watch everything, make sure everything's going the way it's supposed to, kind of be in control of that defense. And if he's not going to be there, that's a big loss.
The best thing this defense, and this is the target point, and I'm sure that people have heard about this before, and this isn't new information, but coming into this season, this defense needs to average about 18 points per game. If they average 18 points per game, the Colts will go undefeated this season. You want to know why I say that?
Why is that?
This is Andrew Luck's records between certain points per game. 16 to 18, he's 4-0. 13 to 15, 7-0. 10 to 12, 5-0. 7 to 9, 2-0. 1 to 3, 3-0. And when the other team doesn't score, 1-0. He's undefeated when the defense, I know it kind of seems like, well, duh, Ricky, that kind of seems to be the case, but when this defense holds a team to under 19 points per game, Andrew Luck's undefeated.
Because he's going to score at least 19.
Yeah. And I mean, last year, the points per game for the offense, and why when you say like, they got to put up more points, I don't think it's the defense having or the offense to put up.
No,
more
I'm not
points.
saying the defense has the offense has to put up more points.
Because they were at 25.7.
I'm saying that no, that's not at all what I said.
Okay.
I said the offense has had to put up more points because the defense gives up 24 points a game.
They did 24.5. Was it like they're half a point away?
So that's why the world's
been
on Andrew Luck's shoulder. He has to carry this team because the defense couldn't stop anybody.
And I mean, some of it too has been to like injuries in the past for the Colts. It's everything. Like every team has to deal with that. However, this defense needs to take a big step when you've got guys like Vonta Davis, when you've got, I know he's on the PUP list right now, but Malik Hooker, you're adding Quincy Wilson. Those guys are expected, when healthy, to start for this team, hopefully week 1. And then you add this defense around. I wonder if this team has added the pieces to be a competent defense for Andrew Luck this year, because he has a running back that he can, for yardage, he can rely on, because Frank Gore last year and 1,000-yard rusher.
But Frank Gore is up there in age. He does not have much left.
That is a question. However, they do have guys like Robin Turbin behind him, and Josh Ferguson was a guy I want to say it was his rookie year last year out of Illinois. He was a guy that got some good carries. So hopefully Robert Turbin's obviously going to be your number 2, but if you do need to use guys like Ferguson, if you do have to go to the Marion Mack, who they pulled in this season, you can go ahead and use those guys as well. But obviously none of those are going to be your starter over a Frank Gore. And then you look at the wide receivers. Yeah, T.Y. Hilton's your main guy, but what I want to see more out of is the guy I look at is Philip Dorsett. You're a guy that they drafted out of Miami with some high praise.
Yep.
Some high praise for being a speedster. You got to show it, young fella. You got to come ahead and show it in 2017.
Yeah. And that's why you look at this and it's like he's got these good weapons on offense. He doesn't have the complete team necessarily. Frank Gore, yes, he was a 1,000-yard rusher, but if I'm Indianapolis, I'm not hanging my hat on Frank Gore. The guy's at the end of his career. It's coming to an end pretty soon. I'm not going to be I'm not going to rely on that. I mean, I definitely would have loved to see Indianapolis draft a running back in the draft last year. Hopefully they get an opportunity to do it in the draft coming this year, if they don't need to address the defense yet again. So it's just tough when you look at things like that, because this team, you have Andrew Luck, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks out there right now, and he's young. You have him for a lot. You want to take advantage of that. You don't get mad at me, comment section. You don't want to make the same mistake with Peyton Manning, where you only get to win 1 Super Bowl. I understand it's hard to win a Super Bowl, but Tom Brady's got a shit ton of them. So, you want to go and take advantage of this once-in-a-generation type of quarterback that Andrew Luck really is. And you want to win as much as you possibly can by getting that best team, drafting really well, getting guys around him who are going to actually, last out there, not get injured right off the bat. The Indianapolis Colts are a team where they should be in the playoffs every year. There's no reason why the Indianapolis Colts should ever miss the playoffs while Andrew Luck is on the field.
And you know what, in comment section, you can kind of correct me if I'm kind of off here, but you know what I kind of just hit me in my head when you just said they should be in the playoffs each and every year?
Sure.
Notice the trajectories from this team in New England since Deflategate.
Trajectories.
Colts, third best team in their division. Patriots, who we would expect, Deflategate should have killed them, Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
Now, I know you can say, well, they've got Tom Brady, but this team, this Colts team, the thing that I think is also going to be a huge loss for them is at the tight end position. And that is Dwayne Allen is going to be a huge loss, because you're taking a guy who was, I know Jack Doyle had the more yards for the tight end position. However, with Dwayne Allen, it was a receiver that Andrew Luck liked to throw to in your dual tight end set.
Yeah.
And that is 400 yards and 6 touchdowns that you are virtually losing, that you have to find someone to replace that. And I know some people might say, well, Ricky, it's easy. Eric Swoop. He's the guy. Just next man up, Eric Swoop. Easier said than done. I know Swoop was a guy, 297 yards last year, but only 1 touchdown in being the third stringer. I look at that also and I go, how is that going to play in when you have wide receivers where Dorsett, like I said, only 528 yards with only 2 touchdowns? And when you've got T.Y. Hilton, a almost 1,500-yard receiver, but only 6 touchdowns, where most of the guys you'd expect, like oh, you're getting 1,000 yards, you should have 10 touchdowns as well.
The thing about Andrew Luck and the Colts is that, he completed more passes. He threw less interceptions than some of his last year. Didn't throw as many touchdowns, but man threw 31 touchdowns. That's no joke. That's up there. He's not going to compete with his 40 touchdown season in 2014 very often.
And they technically had 32 because Tolson had one as well.
There you go.
As a team, they had 32 total passing touchdowns.
But that's not Andrew Luck.
No.
Anyways, Andrew Luck, he's a phenomenal quarterback. The big thing for the Colts is what they tried to address in the offseason. It's the defense. On paper, what we love to talk about in the offseason, on paper, this is telling you everything that they needed to do, they did, really. Minus my personal thing about the running back situation. But they did what they needed to do. We just need to see it happen. And injuries are going to be something that completely kills it and ruins what they tried to do in the offseason about really addressing this defense, and especially the secondary, where they currently have half the starting secondary on the PUP list. So, like I said, there's no reason for the Colts to ever miss the playoffs. If you're sitting there and you have the Colts not penciled into at least the 6th seed, there's something wrong with your projections. There's something wrong with your predictions.
You're saying that's how it should be, though.
That's how it should be, always. We'll see what happens because there's a lot of injuries on this Colts team right now that we should be worried about. I mean, Andrew Luck, for having those shoulder issues throughout the season, still put up a shit ton of numbers. He did great with these injury issues. So even if he's a little banged up week 1, I am not that concerned about him. I am concerned about the defense being injured because that's putting a lot of pressure on Andrew Luck. But I don't know. I mean, the team should, like I said, always be penciled in, so you can't count them out.
And the thing I'm looking at is the schedule right now. And because I'm not one of the guys here at MVP giving the prediction, I see this team at best. Well, not at best because there's always some games here and there. But right now I look at the schedule, and it's not a schedule I look at for the Colts and I say playoff team, like you just said. Like I see 8-8 from this schedule.
Which is totally possible.
And it's one of those things where I see the division. I have them 3-3 in the division. Win the home games, lose the road games. I even have Jacksonville splitting with them this year, which could flip. But I even got them like you're beating the Steelers just because it's a home game. However, you played the Seahawks. The Cardinals, I expect to be better early in the season. The Bills, even though I have you losing that game, that could be a win. I have you beating Denver, though. That could be a loss. I only have you win in that game because it's at home, and you also play teams like the Ravens as well. This is a very tough schedule to me, and tough as in I find it hard to... You could make a 10-win season out of this schedule.
Yeah.
I could flip it.
I could do it.
I could flip the Raven and the Bill game right now and make it a 10-6 schedule. But to me, where I think it's going to be is another 8-8 season. And the thing I was going to ask you because of that is, if this Colt team's another 8-8 season or even 9-7 and misses the playoffs, could this be a year where on Black Monday will Chuck Pagano's name be a name we talk about come Black Monday?
Well, we're going to talk about Chuck Pagano for sure if this isn't going well. Is it we're talking about him because he gets fired or because he once again should get fired? Because he should have been gone last year.
Do you think if they're 8-8, let's say 8-8 at the end of the year, does he get shit canned?
I have to feel like he does because he probably should have gotten fired last year, and they talked about firing him. They just didn't do it. And I don't know if it was just they didn't have the courage to pull the trigger or if it was the let's give him another year. Let's just see. But I mean, he's in a situation, where he's got so much there to save his job, where he's certainly going to be made better by having Andrew Luck. And hey, the Chud's here. The Chud's the offensive coordinator. So, will he get fired? It's hard to say he will if they go back and have a bad season because he didn't get fired when he probably should have before. But I'd have to think they would. If they miss the playoffs again.
I would find it funny if the Colts did go 8-8 as well, because that would mean under Chuck Pagano, 11-5 the first 3 seasons, with wild card, divisional, and AFC championship game being the progression they lost in. And then ever since the 2015 season, 8-8 it would be for the next three. And it would just be complete stagnation with 8-8, 8-8, 8-8 if they finished 8-8 this season.
Yeah. And, you talk about the schedule, and that's the tough thing is you kind of have them at that 8-8, and you can push them to 9-7. You can push them to 10-6.
I don't see more than 10 wins on the schedule.
More than 10? No, I don't see them as an 11-win team. But I can get them to 10 wins. And it's not that difficult to do it. They've got some really good winnable games if this defense is healthy. If everyone's helping Andrew Luck, if Frank Gore is still there, still performing, still being a 1,000-yard running back.
Well, this is where we're going to turn the conversation on to you guys. Let us know down below, how's Andrew Luck going to play this year? Is this going to be, if you guys finish 8-8, will this be a year we see Pagano fired on Black Monday, or in the offseason, will he get fired if they don't make the playoffs? And what do you see about this defense, and how is this team going to fare? Do you see them at 8-8? Are they 10-6? Are they lower than 8-8? Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. And Mark, we're going to move into the Tennessee Titans. And guys, this is the reason I wore this shirt. I know it's not a Tennessee Titan shirt, but I had to wear the Attack on Titan shirt for the Titans as we're doing the AFC South preview. And with no guessing, we're going to start with the quarterback. I'm going to be honest. This whole division, we're starting with the quarterback position because each one has their own story. And with this one, it's Marcus Mariota, only because of what happened at the end of last season with his leg injury. Was asked today about it because their camp starts this upcoming Friday as we're recording the podcast on Tuesday this week. And here's what he had to say, Mark. I feel great with camp starting on Friday. I think my body is in good shape, and I can't wait to get it going. I will be ready to go with everything. I will be full go in practice and will be able to do everything with the guys. And I am excited about that because I wasn't able to do it in organized team activities and OTAs. It should be a lot of fun, end quote.
Yeah. My question for Mariota is, do we give him the official tag of injury prone?
No.
I mean, is that something we do yet? Because he only played 12 his first year. Got hurt. He got hurt at the end of last year. Is he going to get hurt again this year? I don't know.
Last year, to me, last year's injury, though, was like a Tom Brady injury. Remember when Tom Brady was out for that full season?
Oh, yeah.
The only reason he was out was because, I want to say it wasn't Houston, but the defensive end coming around hit him in the knee weird, and he just went down. That was the same thing that happened similarly with Jacksonville. It was just one hit on the knee, and it didn't feel right from there on out.
But 100% of his seasons, he's been injured in the NFL. Now, I know there's only been two. It's only been two. That's a fun game you can play with statistics.
But I'm not even saying that. I'm saying last year's was so far at the end.
It was.
To where it was like...
It was at the very end, but he still got hurt.
I know, I get that, but I'm not ready to call him injury prone because he was able to contribute last year, and it was just that one game. And it was, like I said, that one thing where he doesn't get hit like that.
If that happened in week 6, it was a season-ending injury.
Then it's a different story.
So I think that we're going to see a lot out of Marcus Mariota. That's going to answer a question this coming year. If he plays all 16 games, fantastic. If he gets hurt in, week 10 or something like that, there's going to be concerns in Tennessee about the longevity of Marcus Mariota. And some of those concerns, of course, being that the guy, I don't know if we should call him a mobile quarterback, but being a more mobile quarterback than most. Okay. Those are always concerns there. But Mariota...
And if he goes down, he's got the ultimate replacement behind him in Matt Castle.
Of course. That guy knows how to get it done. But Mariota is a very impressive quarterback. He's a guy that we have a lot of promise and a lot of hope for in Tennessee. I mean, there was a huge debate with him and Winston when they were coming out. If I remember right, I was the Winston fan. You were the Mariota fan.
I was the Mariota fan. I still am.
And they both have been proving to be very good so far in the NFL. Mariota doesn't make a lot of mistakes, He put up pretty good touchdown numbers last year. Not amazing, but he did pretty well. And this is especially for a team that has one of the better running games in the NFL last year. So you just kind of look for those, and you looked at this team and thought last year, what were they missing? Well, they were missing passing weapons. I mean, they were missing these pass catchers, wide receivers. What did they do? They went and they got themselves some wide receivers.
Yeah.
So this is a team that kind of said, all right, we need to fix this. We need to give Mariota the weapons. You get him Corey Davis. You're going to go ahead and get Eric Decker, which I really like Eric Decker. Rashard Matthews, I like this as well. There's definitely some value here. They improved this passing game for Mariota. This team, I have a lot of hope for in this coming year.
No, I really love this team. And as of right now on this, like looking at the schedule, looking at everything, I have this team at about a 9-7 at this point. This is a team, though, where I tell you, check back to our official predictions. This one could be different. And the only reason why I have them at 9-7 right now is because I need to see Mariota post-injury. After Friday when camp starts and I see him in some preseason, maybe if I see him in some preseason games and activity, I need to gauge what's going on a little bit. Because the first 4 games, I'll be honest, all losses for me right now. Raiders, Seahawks, Texans, and that Jag one on the road is the iffy one. But those 4 games, if you don't have Marcus Mariota at near 100%, those are losses. Those are teams that are going to come to play. And I would love it if the Jaguars and Texans were at home and the Raiders and Seahawks were on the road, because then I could say, okay, you could win those divisional games. But because of where they are, Raiders and Seahawks, I don't care if it's home away, I'm giving it to the Raiders and the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And then the Texans and Jaguars, just because they're on the road, you're going to need Mariota big at the beginning of the season. So I think this could be a year for the Titans because of that injury. Struggles the beginning, everything clicks in, and then they finish strong end of the year.
Yeah, you look at this team last year, and the passing game didn't blow anybody away. It was slightly below average passing game. Although they weren't making mistakes, which is good.
Hey man, just don't turn over the football. You'll be okay.
It helps. The running game, like I said, one of the best in the NFL last year.
And it should be with Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray.
Oh, for sure. And this coming year, we're really excited for that. The defense was a little below average, but nothing terrible. I mean, any Tennessee Titan fan's going to complain about the defensive backs, and they'll complain until you stop them from complaining, and for good reason. They fucked some shit up last year. They messed up some games that the Tennessee Titans probably should have won. But, you look at something that I love to see is how many points did they score and how many points did they give up. And it was just about even. For every point they scored, they probably gave one up. And that's the thing where you address that on defense. You get more weapons, hoping to make this a more high-powered offense, while hopefully being able to address that, especially in the secondary, because they definitely needed to fix some issues there. But this Tennessee Titans team, I have high hopes for them this coming year. Much like you, early on, I have them as a playoff-bound team, without giving too much away just yet because things are probably going to change. But I have them as a playoff-bound team. I have them as a team that should go far. I mean, how many games last year were one possession for the Tennessee Titans again?
On both sides, wins and losses. I mean, you look at it, and I'm just going to name a few of them. They beat the Detroit Lions by 1 point, lose to Oakland by 7, lose to Houston by 7. They beat Cleveland by only 2 points. Indy was a 1-point game. You had San Diego 1-point game. You've got Indy 1-point game. The Bears were a 1-point game. Denver and KC 1-point games. And then you also have Houston and Jacksonville 1-point games.
I believe they have 9.
Houston, Jacksonville's loss was not a 1-point game.
Yeah, 9 games, win or loss, were one possession games. I mean, this is a team that is right there where if that secondary is a little bit better, if a mistake doesn't happen, if luck just turns the opposite way for them, they would have been a playoff team. And of course, Mariota would have it would have been nice to have him not get hurt as well, play the full season, even though he just really missed one game. But this is a team that is just right there, and that's why they can go and they can win the division, because Houston's got a new quarterback. Blake Bortles has a lot of questions, and that whole Jaguars team, even though on paper they look good, they don't always perform the best. When you look at Andrew Luck and his Colts, this is a team that has, in the past couple of years, underperformed as well. So you can get out in front, and you can dominate, and you can take this division. You can make it yours. It's kind of in Tennessee's hands in this case, and they need somebody to go out there and really take this to the next level. Whether it's, of course, getting Corey Davis out there, a guy who's going to put up more points. Eric Decker's veteran leadership. Mariota really taking over and doing more as the quarterback. Or if it's just that this run game continues to be one of the best, they need something that pushes them over that edge to get them to this above average good team and turn them into a great team.
Titan fans are going to hate me, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyways. At this moment, and like I said, I'm going to put the disclaimer out there a second time in case you jumped forward to this part and didn't hear. The first one of my predictions at this point are not like, I have my wins and losses mapped out, but they're not chiseled in the stone yet. They're kind of like just
this is
etched
1.0.
Yeah, they're very like lightly etched. Nothing's chiseled yet. This is how I have the Titans so far this season. I have them 9-7, just missing the playoffs. They're the 7th team in the playoff rankings. I switch one loss. I'm just going to give a game. Bengals Titans. I'm switching that to a Titan win. That win, they are now the 6th team in the AFC and in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to, is they have a little bit of control over their own destiny. I think that winning their division is going to be the key to getting into the playoffs.
I think it's either them or Houston.
Because AFC North is always going to be good. And, AFC West is always going to have multiple teams as well. So they kind of have to fight their way. Although I will say right now, AFC South, I like Houston. I do like them quite a bit. I like the Colts. And I like the Titans. These are all teams that are 8-8 and above for me, as it stands right now. So any of these teams can get in there. I don't know. I don't know if I think that Mariota needs to step up and do a little bit more, or if I purely think that it's on this defense to be stronger and stop those one possession games and turn them away.
I expect the defense to be a little bit stronger based on 3 new arrivals we're going to see this year. Playing nose tackle for the Titans, we're going to see Sylvester Williams. What defense did he play in last year? Do you remember, Mark?
Who?
Sylvester Williams? He was in the AFC West. I'll give you that hint. He wore orange.
I'm going to get, if you're saying he's wearing orange, I'm going to say the Broncos.
He came from the Broncos, a very good defense. Another guy, Logan Ryan. Do you know where he's coming from? An AFC East team.
That's a good old Patriots team. That man's got himself a ring.
And then we also have, and I'm going to screw up this last name, but also Jonathan Cyprian coming over from a fellow AFC South,
but that's
Jacksonville.
That's not as impressive of a team.
That's the lesser one. However, he's going to help in the secondary. Also, they did draft.
He was an underperformer in Jacksonville.
They did draft a California kid to help out in the secondary as well. A guy from USC and Adoree Jackson.
I don't know how much expectation they have for him.
As a second stringer, as like a nickel, like not a nickel guy, but you know what I mean, a second string kind of a cornerback, I think he can contribute. I don't think he's going to be the one to blow off the doors and be the starting corner. The
disappointing thing for Tennessee fans is just that, there wasn't that big splash that they got. I mean, they probably feel the same way that Chicago Bears fans felt of, we missed out on some of those big guys. And sure, you're glad you didn't waste a ton of money on just one guy.
You mean free agents?
Free agency-wise, yeah. For one of those corners, but...
Because I was going to say, their first-round pick, man, that Corey Davis pick, I love.
No, I'm talking about corners specifically. Corners and safeties. Because
so you're talking like the Bouilles and
because that's where the big issue was for Tennessee's defense last year is those guys made some dumb mistakes. And... if you want any example, and they won the Chicago game, But they almost lost to Matt Barkley.
They almost lost also to the
that's
Browns.
saying
Like I
something.
said, the Browns game was only a 2-point win.
Yeah.
It was only a 2-point win for the Titans.
So
in that sense,
there was some near heartbreak in Tennessee last year because of that secondary, and they really, really, really wanted to get one of those big name guys. They missed out, and they kind of have to hope that it's not going to bite them.
no, I think this defense should be better. My main question for this team is in the first 4 games. It's how is Mariota going to be starting week 1? Because right now, and like I'm saying, a huge asterisk and a disclaimer of I have not seen him on the field yet. Like he even said, they don't start camp till Friday, and he wasn't able to participate in OTAs. I need to see him on the field before I give you guys wins in any of those first 4 games. And spoiler alert, it's not going to be the Seahawks or the Raiders. Because I am very high on the Raiders this year. And the Seahawks are just a great team, and I don't think the Titans have it in them right now to win that game. However, any last things you think we missed on the Titans before we move on into the Texans?
No, I mean, I'm very excited to see the continued progress for Marcus Mariota, especially with Corey Davis. I like Corey Davis a lot. He was my favorite wide receiver coming out, so I'm excited to see him.
I'll ask you this then. Put a yes or no. Actually, no, not a yes or no. Give me a percentage. What percentage would you put on Corey Davis as a 1,000-yard receiver in his first year?
It's 1,000-yard receiver in his first year, about 80%.
Percentage on him being the rookie of the year, because I'll go 85% on that one. I think
No.
he will be the rookie of the year.
I do not believe that he will be.
Who do you think's gonna? Do you think Trubisky? Is that
Of
who
course.
you're leaning towards right now?
Trubisky, 100%. No, I think Deshaun Watson has a very real chance.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. One of the when you're a quarterback in the league, we're going to
It's
talk about
easy
him
for
next. Corey Davis, though, I think will be one of those guys that we do talk about when we look at rookie of the year. And I'm very high on Corey Davis. I'll be honest, I like him. There's a little bit of bias there, but this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below. What do you think about this team coming into 2017? The offense, the defense, really Marcus Mariota. How do you expect him to play coming back from his injury that he sustained week 16 of last year's season? Let us know down below in the comments section. And Mark, we're now going to move into our last team, the division champions in the AFC South from last year, the Houston Texans. And we're going to start, like I said in the Titans preview, with the quarterback position. And really, this one has a tale of 2 quarterbacks. A while ago, about 2 months ago, we had the pleasure to welcome on Jeremy Brenner from BattleRedBlog.com. You can go and check it out right now above Mark's head. I hope it popped up in the little iCard to see whether or not Deshaun Watson is going to start for the Texans. Because, Mark, we are still entering training camp and entering the preseason with the question, if you are Bill O'Brien, who's your starting quarterback? Tom Savage, who it is technically right now, or Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Watson, 110%. I mean, no questions asked from me that. Todd Savage, I mean, sure, you could give him the chance. I said Todd. His name is Tom. Tom Savage.
Tad.
You could give him the chance, and you could see what he's got, but you've seen a bit of him already. You kind of know what you have, and
You
it's
know
nothing
how that
that
book
impressive.
ends. You know how that book ends.
And if Tom Savage is starting day one, you don't want it to turn into a Jared Goff situation where you just kind of let the not good quarterback keep playing, even though you have your now Deshaun Watson's not number one, but your highly touted quarterback sitting there waiting. And Tom Savage is not going to win you that many games. He's not necessarily going to lose you that many games because your defense is way too good, and you have a great running game with Lamar Miller, and you have these
Weapons
awesome
on the
wide
outside.
receiving options. So you have all these pieces. Just fucking put the rookie out there, And I'm not one of those people that says you got to put the rookie out there. I like the idea of letting him sit, but Bill O'Brien's got to get his guy out there. He said Deshaun Watson's our guy. We traded up for him because that's what you did in this draft. You traded up for a quarterback. You got to give him the chance. Tom Savage, yeah, we've seen it. Brandon Weeden, we've seen it already. we want Deshaun Watson. Now, they're smart. They're not just giving him, they're not going to crown his ass right now. He's got to go out into the preseason and win the game, but 110%, I expect him to win. By game 3 of the preseason, I expect that he's got the starting job.
No, to me, they are a team where I look at them, and especially on offense, and defense too, they are a team that has the full package around them, and they are just waiting to drop that quarterback. It's kind of like what we talk about in the NBA, where sometimes in the NBA we get those teams where it's like, you know what, they have the young talent, they have this, they're just waiting for that superstar to just bloop, plop right in, and boom, they're going to run to a playoff spot and do some great things. That's what Houston's waiting for. They have the pieces on offense, they have the pieces on defense. They're just waiting for that one guy that they can pull in with the crane, drop into that quarterback slot, and boom, not just go to the playoffs, but win in the playoffs. And that's the big question that I think it is for this team, because right now they are my front runner to win the AFC South. They're too good from front to back. Like, I'll give you an example. When I go to, and this could be a mistake on NFL.com, but I'm telling you guys, this is what I'm looking at. Usually I look at the free agent tracker, and it gives me like, re-signed, and who they lost, and who they pulled in. All that's there is departures. Quentin Depps, A.J. Bouye, John Simon, and then I'm a fullback. That is all they have departed right now. Nothing coming in from that free agency, but I look at the rest of this team, and they've added things like Deshaun Watson, who's probably going to be their starting quarterback. They add a Zach Cunningham, who, coming out of Vanderbilt, big things have been said about him and his leadership, and he is joining a linebacking core that already has, J.J. Watt's kind of a linebacker defensive end hybrid, but I'm going to count him for this sense. They already have Brian Cushing. They already have a J.J. Watt on that defense. You're also adding a Deonta Foreman in that run game. I think if he develops, it could be a 1-2 punch between Lamar Miller as your starter, Deonta Foreman hopefully overtaking Alfred Blue. So it's Miller and Foreman as your 1-2 punch. And then the wide receivers. Yeah, Hopkins and Fuller are the main 1-2. But if we can see steps up from Braxton Miller in his second year as a wide receiver, because he was a quarterback transfer from college, or a Jalen Strong, who is the number 3 wide receiver on the depth chart. This team has the pieces. They just need their fearless leader. Because let's be honest, Brock the Cock-a-doodle-doo, was not the answer to their questions. He was overpaid. They got rid of him. They said, you know what, we're going to start over. However, the thing with Tom Savage you got to realize is, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm going to say it in a different way. You are not the Patriots. You are not the Packers. You cannot sit there and say, hey, rookie, eat some bench because we got Tom Brady. Eat some bench because we've got Brett Favre out there. You don't have that out there. And because you don't have that out there, and like you said, they traded up to get him, Deshaun Watson needs to start for this team. Yeah. He needs to.
And he's, people were looking at these guys with Mahomes, with Trubisky, with Deshaun Watson, trying to figure out who was the number 1 guy. And for a long time, it was Deshaun Watson. And the reason why Deshaun Watson was looked at as the number 1 guy is because he's somebody who can make, he can change a game on his own.
Look at the national championship.
Yeah. He can take over. He can get it done. He's got leadership ability. He inspires a team. He influences. He's the guy who walks in that locker room, and it's his locker room. And, there's a lot of those guys on this team already. A lot of them are on defense, fortunately, so he's not too many butting heads there. But he's going to walk in, and he's going to be able to take over this defense. This offense. There's no way you can tell me that Tom Savage right now is in control of this offense.
No, he's not.
You can't convince me. You can't do it.
I get the point where he's like, well, you know what? I'm going to come in here like I'm going to win the job. But let's be honest. I can say it because I'm not on that team and I'm not Tom Savage. You're not going to win that job. It is Deshaun Watson's job to lose. In my head, that is.
No, I agree.
Because you don't trade up for that quarterback and then say, whoa, you got to win it from this guy over here.
And what's been the big issue for Bill O'Brien? quarterback. He's had everything he needs except for a quarterback. That's why they paid so much money to get Brock Osweiler. That's why they then got rid of Brock Osweiler and traded up in the draft to get Deshaun Watson. They need a quarterback. He can't now sit there and say, yeah, but Tom Savage is going to start the first 5 games. Because you need a quarterback. A quarterback is what is putting or threatening Bill O'Brien's job. He needs that number 1 guy, and Deshaun Watson should be that number 1 guy. No questions asked for me.
No, and he should be. And the one thing that I'm looking at right now is on battleredblog.com. I'm looking at some guys that they put down as could be breakout candidates for the Texans this season, and just going through some of them, Deshaun Watson's on the list. However, I mean, breakout candidate for a guy who you were saying should be the starter.
It's not a breakout. You expect it.
There are 3 guys on this 2-part article, and I'll leave both of them in the description for you guys. There are 3 names that I am thinking, 2 on offense, 1 on defense, that I'm like, yes, I want to see breakout performances from this season. 2 are rookies, 1's a vet that I've already mentioned. The first one's Braxton Miller. I want to see a little bit more from you. I want to see you progress more into the wide receiver position where he had 15 catches for 99 yards. I want to see you become what you were a little bit in college. Remember that run against Virginia Tech where he showed the Madden moves with the spin? I know the NFL is a lot tougher than college because the guys are bigger, better, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
However, I want to see more of that. I want you to see you evade guys in the open field after getting the ball. The other 2, like I said, Deonta Foreman, he's probably my number 1. Only because out of the running backs past the top ones, I love Deonta Foreman. I thought that the team that he would fit best with is the New York Giants, New York Football Giants. And I thought he'd fit well there because they're a team that really needs a number 1 running back and needs someone to lean on.
Yeah.
However, the Texans have that guy. If he can just break out and have a phenomenal season as the second back behind Lamar Miller, then the last one, the guy I mentioned, is Zach Cunningham. However, how much of a role is he going to play when he's already going to be playing behind Brian Cushing and behind McKinney on the linebacking core?
Yeah, but that linebacking core has so much talent that getting a guy who can be a change of pace is going to be great. And talking about defense, and this isn't a breakout type of guy because Jadeveon Clowney, we all know what to expect out of him. But he's
healthy.
Exactly. Staying healthy is important, and we want to see a full season of work because when he's out there, he's a monster.
Yep.
And you pair him or put him opposite, essentially, of J.J. Watt. It's deadly. Quarterbacks will have no time to do anything out there. And that's what the Houston Texans lucked into when they were able to draft a guy like Clowney. So there's so much to be excited about on this team. I was talking about how we're both really high on the Tennessee Titans, but the Houston Texans are kind of the safe pick to win the division.
I am huge. Like out of the AFC South teams, I am huge on the Texans. I have them 11-5 right now. And it's one of those things coming, like, I look at their, just like we did for Jacksonville, I look at their schedule just going to the Week 7 bye, and, I mean, running through that schedule, Jacksonville, they should win. The Bengals, not going to be that much of a challenge for them. Yeah, you lose to the Patriots in Foxborough, but you beat the Titans. You lose to the Chiefs, you beat the Browns. You're sitting there 4-2 heading into your bye week. Then after that, their next loss is Week 13. I have them after the bye winning, like, 4 or 5 straight. This is a team that could go on a run this year and could get to 11-5, could get to 10-6 and win the division, win the AFC. My big question for them is if they win the division again, go to the playoffs, the big one is, can you win a playoff game? Can you win a playoff game? Because it has been a while since they've won. I don't think they've ever won. That's why I say it has been a while since you've won a playoff game. This is usually a team that makes it, and then boom, you're out.
Well, the Houston Texans, when you're looking at this team and you're really kind of thinking about how high they can climb, how far they can go, playoffs is not out of the question for sure. They have won playoff games, and they will continue to win playoff games.
3. I just looked it up. I forgot they won the Raider game because Derek Carr was injured.
Yeah.
They've also beaten the Bengals.
I was going to say they're famous for beating the Bengals. They have won these playoff games, and they will be able to continue winning them now that they have a good quarterback out there. Now, don't get too crazy out there. We're not looking at our rookie quarterback to win the Super Bowl or anything like that. But this is a team that can win the wild card round. When they get to a division round, they might get bounced out, but only because these are some of the best teams and they have a little bit more to go.
And the reason why I have them 11-5 right now, because obviously some things could change before we get to our chisel it in stone. Like we said during the Titans preview, this is kind of the 1.0 of our predictions that we are kind of putting down on paper. The thing that is going to be most beneficial to the Texans this year is, yes, they'll have a rookie quarterback, but it will be the only rookie quarterback that has the most complete team around him.
And he's probably the only rookie quarterback that's going to be playing.
Except for Trubisky.
Trubisky, I think he's going to have to wait a little bit. Not super long, but he's going to have to wait some games.
At least until week 8.
Yeah.
However, he's going to play. I think Trubisky could play at least half the season.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Second half of the season, we're talking about Trubisky, but I think Watson's the only one that plays all the way through. All he has to do, in my mind, he doesn't have to rip the cover off the ball. All he has to do is, and I know I'm using a baseball term there, but all he has to do is not turn over the ball. Just don't turn over the ball. Let your defense do your thing. Put points up on the board. Boom, you'll win.
I mean, you've got great run game, great wide receivers, a great defense. It's simple. It should be simple for you to go out there, win games.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Get the division. Go ahead and get it. It's yours for the taking. Tennessee Titans are going to be there competing with you. The Colts are in the picture as well. But you guys won it last year. You have a better team this year because you have a quarterback now. You should be able to do it. Should be able to do it. No reason why you can't.
My only question for this team, and I said it once, I'll say it again, is the playoffs. Because I look at, now that I'm actually looking at since 2011 when they're, because they've only been to the playoffs 4 times, 2011, 2012, and then 15 and 16. Let's be honest. They would only have 2 playoff wins if Derek Carr was healthy last year. Do we agree on that?
Probably.
Do you think they still win that game if Derek Carr is healthy and playing?
No, I don't believe in Brock Osweiler.
No. But they do have 3 right now. I don't see them playing another team like the Bengals. I don't have the Bengals in there. I don't see them playing a team like a Raiders team without their quarterback. Right now, I think the team that they could play is maybe like a Chiefs again, who the last time they met them in the playoffs, 30-0, you lost at home to the Chiefs.
But that team had no quarterback.
Yeah.
So, to be fair.
But you'll have a quarterback this time, but he'll be a rookie quarterback. How does he play in his first preseason or postseason game? That's the question to me. It's not a question of the Texans getting to the postseason. It's how are they going to perform in the postseason? And that is the true question for this team. This could be the beginning of this team where maybe in the next few years, next 2-3 years, I'd say 1-2 years is what I'm thinking. This being the first one, then the 19 and 20, where after this season we're looking at like, okay, within the next 2 years, this team could be an AFC championship team, could be a Super Bowl contender, depending on how. And like Mark said, I don't want to jump ahead and crown their asses before they get there, but depending how Deshaun Watson looks in his first year with the Houston Texans.
No, I agree, and it'll be fun to watch him play. He's definitely a Rookie of the Year contender to start off. So let's see how it goes.
I want to ask you this, kind of like what I did for the Titans, and I think I know your answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What is your percentage, because you mentioned it during the Titans preview, your percentage that Deshaun Watson wins the Rookie of the Year? I know you're saying that he's your favorite, but what's the percentage? Is it an 100% you think he'll be automatically it?
No, it's not 100% because I think Leonard Fournette has potential too, depending on what he does in Jacksonville. So that's there. And hell, I mean, even if Trubisky could start day one, he's got an opportunity. But let's comment on that. Sorry, Bears fans. But I do think he's got it pretty close. I say it's like a 75% chance he's got it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at the top 3 guys I'm looking at for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And, of course, this could change depending on injuries and stuff. No particular order: Deshaun Watson, Leonard Fournette, Corey Davis. They're the three that I think have the best shot to
All in the
take
same
home
division.
the heart. They are all in the same division. I didn't even think about that until you just mentioned it. All here in the AFC South. But we're going to turn it on to you guys. Let us know what you guys think about the Texans. Who should start at quarterback? We're kind of leaning towards a Deshaun Watson because I don't believe in Tom Savage. He is not the starter for you guys. What do you think will happen if the Texans get to the playoffs? How can they progress into the playoffs this year? Or do you see it maybe being another, we made it and we got bounced out in the wild card round for Houston? I want to thank you guys for either watching the podcast on YouTube or listening to us on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or Stitcher. We will be back next week to preview and end our previews with the NFC South, and we'll be done with all our previews for 2017. We are just over a week away from football. Thank you guys for listening, and as always, have a good day, everybody.